Hello there, YouTube and art students. How are you? What I'm going to do is just do a very brief little thing and talk about sketchbooks. So for class and just for ever, you need to keep a sketchbook. So if you are at all remotely serious about visual arts, or really just in general, you should have something to record your thoughts. It's important. So just for this purposes, I've pulled up an old sketchbook of mine for a couple of reasons. The main reason is that I want to go over, I want to show you the process that I used to create some sculptures that I did a few years back. And when I say a few years, it's different than for you a few years. A few years ago for you was 2017. A few years ago for me, I can't remember when I made these statues, but it might have been 2002, 2000. So anyway, a while ago. So this is an old sketchbook that I just pulled up just to kind of show you what I was doing. Unfortunately, I do not have a picture of the statues. I need to get them. I don't know. Again, I did them a long time ago before cell phone cameras were everywhere. I just need to get pictures of them. But I wanted to show you the sketches and just kind of explain my thought process. I don't have a document camera set up for this. I'm just going to hold these images up and we'll go from there. So a few years ago, I wanted to do some sculptures for my school. And the mascot of my school is the Indians. So I wanted to do a statue for the school, but I wanted to do it not in sort of a mascot, tomahawks and war paint, screamy Indian. I wanted to do a very respectful and inclusive Native American statue. And remember, this is back in the day, so head of the curve on that one. So initially I start off, and I'm just going to show you some sketches that I have in my sketchbook. And I'm not showing you these just to show, the purpose of this is not to show you my sketches. Who cares? My purpose is to show you the sketchbook. So I initially was going to do this. It ended up being a little Pocahontas-y, a little Disney. So I wanted something that was a little bit, more powerful. So these are just these were like freestanding. There's, they had a pedestal to stand on, and I thought about, just various ideas that would be traditional. So these are, I wanted to incorporate traditional Native American costume and garb, and, iconography. The eagle, of course, pops into my head. So the purpose was to make a Native American that had connotations of education and school and etc. Now, the school, the building that I was in was a building built back in the 40s under the Public Works Administration, so it was an Art Deco style building. So I wanted my art to match the architecture, so I started looking at images that were more Art Deco, and so there's like the initials of the school, and just pieces that had an Art Deco feel, but also had a Native American feel to it. So again, the purpose of this is not to show you my sketches. The purpose of this is to emphasize the importance of a sketchbook. So I started to research online, and these are the titles of the work. So I don't know if you ever want to look those up, you certainly can. But I was looking up Art Deco imagery that I could incorporate into my design. This would be cooler if I had a document camera, wouldn't it? So this one actually ended up being one that I kind of used. I'll show you. So this one actually became the female figure. This is the male figure, but this one I incorporated into the female figure. So at this point, I'm starting to think about, male and female, because, I'm inclusive like that. And so I wanted to also, this one over here incorporates the idea of children, and it is for a school after all. So, but we'll reference this one again here in a few minutes. Again, the purpose of this is not to show you the sketches. The purpose of this is to show you the sketchbook. So this one starts to get a little closer to what I ultimately ended up with. You know, I've got images and you know, I started to think about the eagle as a symbol of learning and, you know, things like that. What do we teach? I started to do little scenes and blah, blah, blah. And then I'll point out this little, so here's a little sketch, just this little half-finished doodle. This thing right here is the one that ultimately ended up being the male figure. Just that little squiggly mark that's down there in the corner of the page. That one's the one that ended up being the male, and then the one I showed you a few minutes ago, that's the one that ends up being the female. So I'll kind of show you what the final designs ended up being. So these are the final designs. The male figure you can see over here, he has that same pose that I just showed you, that little thumbnail, and he's holding fire to symbolize, you know, the knowledge and the passing of knowledge. The woman figure, she looks a little bit like the figure I showed you a minute ago, the male figure. She is a corn maiden, and corn maiden is from traditional Native American tales and histories and mythologies. And, you know, I was thinking about putting in things like serpent mound and shields and just other stuff. But this ended up being the ultimate design. The garb is a traditional garb. So this guy is modeled after the Shawnee. So he's dressed in the traditional Shawnee style because here I live in Kentucky, and Kentucky Shawnee Indians were in this area originally. So again, I apologize that I don't have a picture of the finished sculptures. That'd be nice. I'll see if I can find one laying around and attach it to the end of this video. But the purpose of this is not to show you the sketches. The purpose is to emphasize the importance of a sketchbook. So I did these these drawings that I just showed you maybe 20 years ago. I don't know, 15 for sure. I still have them. They're here, right here. They're available for me to draw inspiration from. I don't know what happened there. Had a little break in my recording. But the reason I'm showing you this is because I want you to show you the importance of keeping your sketches and ideas present that you can draw from later. You know, why do I have a picture of an ostrich in my sketchbook? I was playing around with the idea, but now that I'm just flipping through an old sketchbook, I'm saying, oh, yeah, that's a pretty cool little drawing there. So all these ideas that I have in my sketchbook are still available to me. This is a copy I did from a painting by Waterhouse, a pre-Raphaelite painter that I like. So, you know, all of these ideas are still present here in my sketchbook for me 20 years later to use. So keep your sketches. You want to have those as available reference, and those will be available for you whenever you look back to your sketches, and you can draw upon old ideas and incorporate them into new ideas. The sketchbooks that I prefer are just these little composition books. They're very cheap, 75 cents or $1, something like that. I like them because if you get a stack of them, so these are multiple sketchbooks here of mine, you can just put them all together. They all fit very nicely, same size, put them on the shelf, and then you can pull them off and look at them later on if you want to. Digital sketchbooks, you know, I like digital formats, Illustrator, Photoshop, Procreate, all those programs that you can use, they're great. But I don't like digital for a sketchbook. It's too easy to get rid of your sketches digitally. It's too easy to undo. So when you're looking at paper, there's no undos in your paper. All your little things, everything remains, all your little sketches and doodles. So, you know, again, I'll reference this little thing. This little doodly-doo right there, that's the one that ultimately became, and you can see the foot is I adjusted it, and but that's the one that became the statue, that little squiggle. So if I had done that digitally, would I have kept that little squiggle? Probably not. So it's too easy to undo your images digitally. Keep a paper sketchbook. Again, I prefer these little guys right here. Then you can always take a photograph of your sketch, pull that photograph into your digital format, and then draw right back into it from there. So you need to get a sketchbook, and you need to have all your drawings. Everything's in your sketchbook. Everything that you do, all your thoughts, all your process, everything goes into your sketchbook. That way it's bound and kept for years. And you can then use those sketches to then incorporate into your permanent art, your good stuff. So get you a sketchbook, and then we'll be ready to kind of start on some new stuff soon. Okay, there we go. Sorry about the little hiccup there in the middle of the process.